629. Scanned invoice prior to order, first party invoice paid was 611. So this one was even paid, we already paid this before it got into the batch. Second invoice of prior order, first part of invoice was paid 611. Wrong PO number on the invoice, order placed 629. Fax confirms this. First invoice dated 629, received a follow-up invoice with later dates. Kim had the later one. That's the last one. Okay, so those were the first batch of the ones that were given us. There's a second batch there, Kathy, if you go down in here, it was no proof.
Okay.
There's a, look.
Question. Because we're doing it this way, and we don't have the packets that we had before, I guess my quick question is, remember how we had packet numbers? A group of POs, 168 or 148, which I don't have with me right now. The dates that they were submitted to her, are these just kind of all in random order?
What we did at the conclusion of our meeting, the board, through the superintendent's office, contacted Kim and said, give us those ones you have in question. These are those. Are they in that particular order? Probably not. You know, they're just.
So I guess my question is Kim, not only was it right emails and the fax cover sheets or whatever, it was when they were processed, like given to Kim to be processed. So like remember we got a handful in September and then another handful. These are the ones that were processed.
These are the ones that had questions on.
Okay.
These are the ones that had questions on. We'll break through everything systematically, don't worry. Now, there's a couple of them here that we didn't, yes, Bob?
You just went through a number of invoices and which you had backup for, ordered 629. Just curious, how many did you go through then?
We went through the 27 that Kim gave us.
So did you just show us the 27?
We showed you about 20.
21.
21.
Can I back up to the
Sure.
2747?
Yes.
We had that in front of us, we had that list that had all of those circles.
Right.
Is that list pared down? Because that.
Actually, remember some of the Dell ones were already taken care of. So those were part of, but they were part of the number that we were looking at. So some of those Dell ones were already taken care of.
The Dell was the total 289, was not included in the ones I was concerned about.
Right.
I had a total of 198,000. I do have to say that, you know, I had to take my assistant and go to the Board of Ed offices and search and dig up all these invoices by ourselves, and we aren't familiar with their way of filing and everything. It took us a long time, so I went through and added up the invoices I saw with dates. And I have that somewhere.
Well, I think the reason
Let's
for
keep
that's
going.
explained later on.
We'll go through.
Yeah, so there might have been invoices that were filed in a different place, and I just went in and did the best I could based off those check registers.
Yeah, you were telling people there was an issue with them, so, and we're just showing there wasn't, so.
But going back, but going back, will we have those hard copies tonight?
Yes.
Okay, all right, well, it's just, it's like she's cranking through.
Yeah, no, I know. We're trying to give you the presentation, the proof.
Okay.
Okay, there was a few of them that we did not have any proof of disorder. PO date on this thing is 6/19. I have no proof of it. It was mailed. So a lot of these things that were mailed, unless somebody actually saved the envelope with the post office date stamp, I've got nothing on this one. So I've got nothing on this one. No proof. Advance says order was mailed in, but this is Advanced Auto Shop down in Bridge Street. They did not keep the order date. It was available for pickup 7/7, which I believe was the Tuesday after the holiday weekend. So the likelihood is this order was placed the week before the holiday weekend. Again, we've got no proof of it, other than the fact that it's the Granger order. This one here, if you want to rotate the order, we placed the order, we cut the order early. When we called it in, the Granger guy from Granger, it was determined that he said if you hold off until July 1, we qualify for like $1,100 discount. There is $1,100 discount. So Roger held off on that one. So that one, we saved $1,100, saved PO in June, ordered in July, this was what, CVS Blooms, okay? That's the end of that. So, I mean, there are a few things, that we have here.
Chris, can I give you a total on that so they
Sure.
can get their heads around it? The invoices that fell through the cracks, $36,957.94.
36?
36,000. The 21 invoices that had been questioned, and we have evidence showing that they were, the PO was cut and the order was placed prior to June 30th, is $236,607.09.
So, I mean, I guess, it's almost like we've taken a carpet bombing approach where we need a surgical strike. But, in all, for the most part, everything is there. You've got a few POs that, as Teresa said, might have fallen through the cracks, but a very small number, 36,000 over a $22 million budget. I think everybody's done a pretty admirable job, in my personal opinion. The thing that I would like to get into next, I'm gonna move over to the right, the encumbrance policy. Yes. There was a lot of discussion about this the other day, and, the way I'm
Before you
gonna,
get into that, can I
Yes.
just ask, are we gonna have that initial, that paper that we have with the one circle? I didn't bring that with me, do we have that copy or whatever?
I'm sure Kim can find it if we need it when we get to discussing it. I'm sure.
so, I mean, in the spirit of cooperation, as we talked about last week, or the other week, I think what we should do is, the Board of Ed is willing to now put together some proofs that collectively we all can agree on. When I say that, in terms of proofs, if it is a fax transmission report, if it's a copy of a sent email, something like that, but I want a proof that we can agree on and you can agree on, and we're not down here in June or July of next year revisiting this topic. Now, one of the things that we talked about on the 29th is, I think the term that I use, we've been going over this for 3 years. The date on that encumbrance policy is June 16th, 2014. Basically, you're talking 2 weeks before the close of last fiscal year. That's not 3 years ago, that's basically a year ago, and it's hard to put a policy in place 2 weeks before the end of the fiscal year and expect everybody to hold on to it. But anyways, I'm going to direct your attention to item 3.1, which talks about the authority. And it says, per the town charter, section 6.6D, the Board of Selectmen authorize general supervision over the accounting forms and methods for all departments, agencies, and districts under the control of the Board of Selectmen. Big note right there, because the Board of Education is not under the control of the Board of Selectmen. Okay, that's by state statute. So realistically, although I understand the purpose, legally we're not held to that, but that's another story.
Yeah,
Anyways,
that really
go to
is another story.
6.6D. Yeah. I'm just saying it's right there in black and white. It's right down 6.6D. This is, I think you keep going to get the charter part.
The charter part's down here.
Yeah. And right there, purchasing, well, that's 8.7. If you go up to 6.6D, I don't know if we have that. No, we don't have that one. Okay, go back. But now when you come back to the purchasing side of that, it says purchase of the town of East Windsor, this is from the charter, with the exception of the Board of Education, shall be made under such rules and regulations as established by the Board of Selectmen. So even charter gives us a walk on this. So again, in the spirit of cooperation, I think the Board of Ed and the Board of Finance ought to find common ground. Legally, however, I just do want to point out that we're really not bound by any rules in terms of charter and or in the policies as set forth by the Office of Denise Menard. So just want to throw that out there.
And that's under purchasing.
That's under purchasing, and so that's part of the
Okay, but
charter.
that's not under
But
the
do you
budget.
agree that because we're audited together and you are a department of the town and there is local control over budgetary matters of the Board of Ed by the town, do you agree with that fact? That is,
I'm saying that your policies and our policies don't necessarily need to coexist. Okay? We can have independent policies, but I do agree that I think whatever we need to do it together. We need to work together. But that doesn't mean you can dictate policy to me. It doesn't mean I can dictate policy to you. It means we need to work together and find consensus that takes care of that part. Where do we have next? I guess at this point, Teresa, if you want to get to the point where we're talking about the reconciliation,
Yes. Kathy, if you can,
it says books did not reconcile, thing
Yeah.
right there.
a comment had been made during the joint meeting that our books did not reconcile after March. I think the insinuation was that after Judy Poole left TMS that we didn't reconcile. And that when I looked back and did investigating, I was not in district at that time, I was on leave, so went through and tried to just piecemeal what we found. We did have a reconciliation sheet sent to us in April, and then in subsequent TMS meetings, there is no mention of reconciliation in May, and then there is discussion about the need to reconcile in June. The notes don't reflect any red flags that there's an issue. So I just wanted to clarify to people that the statement that we didn't reconcile after March is not accurate.
But we didn't reconcile after March. We sent you a reconciliation sheet in April, but we had no response to it. And we hadn't had any reconciliation going on until August. So
Then,
we sent the sheet, we prepare that sheet monthly, but we hadn't gotten any feedback.
and the sheet was interpreted that we reconciled.
Well, we
and-
can put what we have on our sheet, but we generally have to match up with what you're showing on
So
your book.
if there was an issue around reconciliation, Kim, then why wasn't that brought up in the April meeting, the May meeting? The notes
The
don't.
May
correct me if
meeting
I'm
was
wrong.
canceled, I
Right.
believe. No one showed up, but we did mention.
No, there are
it.
notes from the May meeting.
Well, one of the meetings in the spring.
I can't remember which meeting, and you would have to go back on your
There's-
email.
But
those
there-
are the
there
main
are
points.
That's, to
So-
me, we, at the year end, we have to get together and we have to reconcile. We were just saying that things have been going along very smoothly, monthly reconciliations, and then in March, things changed.
Right, and the
That's-
payments.
That was my only point. We are reconciling that.
I guess my concern is that, being an outsider, reading the notes, it's not reflected in the notes that there was any kind of concern. And that the notes are sent back to you for comment. If these aren't reflective of the meeting, please let us know.
Well,
And
we have conversations on the telephone, not everything is reflected in that one email. It's a one-sided email, generally TMS just says this is what we went over in the meeting.
there's a tagline at the bottom about that if you have any questions or concerns about this, get back.
Right.
So,
We were in contact with them. I mean, I think we're arguing over something that's not necessarily to be argued over because we are reconciled now. There was a little bit of a breakdown, but we fixed that issue and so I don't know if we need to waste time discussing this.
I just think it was as going forward, that months can't go past where you guys don't reconcile.
And we
Not
didn't
us
get the
involved,
Human
not you
Resource
guys,
Center
not
No.
me.
money, we didn't get the
You
tax
and
money until
TMS.
October.
The treasurer and TMS have to hold to
Stopped
their monthly meetings,
March.
and
Then
payments have to be,
Right.
Well, and I think the point that Teresa's saying is, what Kathy has up here on the board is copies of emails from April, from May, from June. And again, it hits the highlights, but if we didn't have reconciliation, you would think that that would be one of the ones that would be like, hey, hold on, guys, we didn't reconcile. And the very last line that says, please let me know if there's anything incorrect or I left anything out. I agree with you, Geraldine. I mean, that's not a level of detail that you or I need to get into, but the process, again, I think we need to be able to say, I would agree, reconciliation is a very important thing, and we just want to make sure that we always have it.
Well, we would discuss reconciling at the meeting. I would get that email the next day, and I would assume that within the next couple of weeks, we would work on the reconciliation together. I would have no reason to respond to it. And then it usually was happening through phone calls and, discussions. So I wouldn't have an immediate response to that email if I agreed with that it followed everything we discussed. It doesn't mean that 2 weeks later, nothing had been done.
Questions on it?
I think it, again, removed from it at that time, I think it just speaks to that we have to pump up communication on both sides. And that whether it to sit down with each other and go through each point. Maybe some of the communication is being lost in phone calls. You know, what I'm hearing is that there was an understanding that everything was going okay. What I'm hearing from you, Kim, is no, you had concerns. And the notes are showing me we didn't communicate that somehow. So I'm left with the question, how can, I think one of the things going forward is, how can we improve? And so we're not back here, and I think that's everybody's intent. How do we move forward in a
I mean,
productive
we are in
way?
constant communication with Melissa, with Lori, we work together very well with them. TMS, as you know, is not on site constantly to pick up the phone and talk to about certain.
Kim, you've been told over and over again, TMS is with us 24/7. I could call them at midnight and I'm getting somebody, because they're not on site. I'm not on site with you, but I work with you.
Right.
So, you know, people telecommute all the time. So because they're not physically on site, they're still with us.
I guess I was assuming that Lori and Melissa were communicating to TMS when we contacted them, because
Yeah.
we talk to them all the time.
Yeah.
So
The
I
one
think
thing-
that might have been.
So I think that, maybe that's a good place where we can start, like what things get directed directly to TMS, what things get directed to Melissa, what things get directed to Lori, and likewise letting Lori and Melissa know, move that over to TMS, that's a
That
TMS
might be
issue.
a good
Maybe
idea.
that'd help, you know?
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, it's no surprise to, it shouldn't be a surprise to anyone up here, because I've been hearing about this every single meeting. It's not, you know, we've always been discussing it, so,
And we,
That's a
generally
breakdown.
TMS and I meet the day of the Board of Finance meeting, so I have the most up-to-date information
I mean, I'm sure
to share with
we've
you
gone
about
through.
where we stand. I mean,
Because
we
that's
have
been a
tried to-
question at almost every meeting, where does the reconciliation stand on this? It's been over and over again that it's been a big issue, that these notches on our audit. That's no surprise, we've been talking about that forever, so, yeah, maybe there is a huge breakdown,
The
because
notes
it's something
don't
that,
Well, like
I mean, I don't know,
said
is
at the last meeting, I
this
feel like we're in a
listen-
much better place than we were
Right.
a year ago, much better. I mean, we really are communicating and working together.
I think that's wonderful to hear, and I'm glad that,
I
because
shared at the last meeting.
that has been a goal, to just keep improving
Right.
all the processes over on the board bedside. I know you've been doing the same thing in your office. I guess what I would ask each board to think about is that when concerns come forward, that we have to be careful that we have the most current information. Because at the last meeting, some of the members were still concerned over the Dell invoices, yet at the other end of the table, we're hearing, no, that's already resolved. So people were still voicing concerns about something that had already been resolved. So I think that, you know, a word of caution to all of us, that we try to stay as current as we can with just the situation.
Yeah, because I agree on that last one. You know, Kim and TMS had already worked out the whole Dell invoice arrangement.
Well, we hadn't worked it out. What was presented was that we had original invoices with an invoice date after July 1 that were stamped and received by the Board of Ed. And then we had a new set of invoices with new
Of
dates.
Dell, right.
And so it really was presented to the Board of Finance that night as this is what it's in. I wouldn't say it was resolved at that point. It was presented to them in that manner.
Sure.
One of the things that had come up was signing off on the sheet to attest to that everything was all right. And that at the last meeting, the Board of Finance was asking the Board of Ed to sign that along with the superintendent. And I had a conversation with the auditor, and that that had not been his intent. He thought that perhaps you had misunderstood him. He was looking for the superintendent and the business manager to sign that. In conversation with the auditor, I said if we come up with the backup information, I would assume that's not required. And he had said yes, because then he would have proof of big proponent of sitting down face to face with people. We all get caught up with phone calls and emails and stuff, but I still think the best way is when everybody's in the room and you can come to common ground about, okay, this is the expectation and this is how we're gonna fulfill that expectation.
Well, I have a little bit of a concern because I send a lot of emails to TMS, just TMS, and suddenly they're CC to everybody in the universe. So do you want to be involved with everything, or do you want us to be able to just deal with each other as one business manager to another? I sent many emails that were sent directly to TMS that ended up being copied to you, Board of Ed, members.
I think ideally that you folks should be able to communicate directly with each other and only with each other. This summer, there were red flags raised when there were questions about the Alliance grant, and that sent a panic to us on our side that you had questions about whether that was, should be counted as town revenue. That's over a $300,000 hit, and that would have a huge effect on our budget. So that was a red flag.
But that was handled by me by contacting Chris immediately from TMS and saying, can we meet about this and discuss it? Or it might have been Andy, I don't know if it was Andy. And that was how I said, let's find out, let's get to the bottom of this, and we did. I didn't feel like that had to be, I reached out to work together to get an answer.
Let me tell you,
Because it was part of our budget.
I'm glad to hear that was the intent. Can I tell you how the perception was on our side? I'm aware that there's a question that Alliance grant may be deemed town revenue. That's a $300,000 hit. Wow, how are we gonna handle that? Andy alerted me to that, as he should, because that's a potential $300,000 cut to the budget. He had talked to people down at the Department of Education about it. He had sent that to you.
Right.
Then we were CC'd in on an additional response from the Department of Education. You apparently had emailed them, but not included us, asking about the Alliance grant and asking if you could reduce the appropriation, or could the appropriation
Right.
be reduced and still meet NDR? I'll be honest with you, Kim, that sent a panic again.
It wasn't meant to be taken as threat, I'm just trying to do things correctly. For the
Yeah.
past 5 years, the town has been budgeting on total ECS revenue
Yeah.
incorrectly.
Right.
And when we contacted somebody at the Department of Education, they told us that should be used as town revenue. I contacted Andy, sat and talked with him about it, he said he would talk to somebody from the Department of Ed. And as soon as we got the information, I said, okay, it makes sense now, I understand it, I saw the statutes, fine. The town has been budgeting for that money in error for the past 5 years, it's not gonna happen going forward.
Right.
And I totally agree with you that it was never, I don't need to find money for the town. We have fund balances higher than it has to be.
I hope
Our
you can
revenues are met,
appreciate,
so I just think that
So
there's
now I'm
perception
asking you,
that-
look at it from how it can be taken, that we're hearing it might not be revenue for us. There's a question, can our appropriation be reduced? Those are all alarming questions for us because it would have an impact on what we can do for kids. I hear what you're saying, that's not your intent. What I'm trying to get you to understand is, but that was the impact on it. So certainly the business manager was alerting me to that because we potentially could be losing quite a bit of revenue.
But I think that also
Right, but-
plays back into the conversation we were having just a moment ago, where we talk about getting together because things like emails and such don't always necessarily tell the whole story.
Well, and you don't know the tone, and you don't know,
Yeah.
and I think that's a big part. We could sit here and drive this home till we're dead. But, and I kind of feel like you're getting a little attacked, and I don't want you to feel that way.
Yeah,
So
I
wait,
do.
let me finish, please.
Excuse
So-
me, Geraldine, we sat through a meeting
No,
2
no, I
weeks
know,
ago
I know,
where
but I
my
don't want us
business
to go
manager
back
was
there.
attacked all through the meeting. And that, I think, excuse me, the tone of voice that's going on.
Oh, no, I'm
this
not saying
evening-
your tone of voice. I'm
Okay.
saying going forward, just like he's saying, emails and tones and things like that.
Right.
And we could go back and forth about this and back and forth. And what we need to do, I think, wanna sit and rehash all over again, is go forward, because nobody, I understand where she's coming from, I understand where you're saying it felt like she was gonna take away the money, et cetera, and that's the thing, they can't be afraid to ask each other questions. She's trying to clear up years of, is this been done right? No, it hasn't been done right, let's do it right. So she can't be afraid to ask that question, and I think that's the thing. It's gonna have to take, whether it's face-to-face, however everybody, but being in the same room and having those, and not canceling anybody, canceling meetings, be it you, be it whoever, and getting them done so that we're not sitting here saying, you know, we sat getting attacked, you're sitting getting attacked. No, let's just have these and let's go forward and not go through these
Yeah,
anymore.
because other than, you know, our first, at least for me, speaking for me, my first learning of this was seeing a copy of that email, which was like, wow, again, it was red flags, bombs, all type things. I was like, wow, what's gonna happen here? But I can understand if we all get together, we can talk about this, sit things out on the table, that always works out best for everybody, I think.
And that was my original intent. I
Yeah.
sat face to face with Andy and brought up my questions to him, and it was not in any way, shape, or form meant to be, oh, we're here to take this money away from you. And I hope he left that meeting understanding that. It was just like, we have to get to the bottom of this. I had, you know, responses from other finance directors saying, all that ECS money belongs to the town. I was just trying to clarify. That's all.
Well, yeah, I don't know, yeah. Well, you keep saying Andy and I were sitting and Andy and I were talking or whoever, and maybe then it does take more than just you and Andy, I don't know. So
Well,
there
maybe
isn't
if-
more than just two people's idea of the conversation. I don't know.
I don't know, I'm just gonna speak for a second. I'm
Oh, you're
really
part of
on
the board.
a critical issue,
You're part of
like
the board.
a $300,000 transaction. That would be something that you would wanna bring to the attention of the superintendent of schools. And I think, just in speaking about this and in listening to it, there's a hierarchy to communication. So I think probably, I think you need to look at it, if you want, like a corporation. You have an issue, you have a budgetary concern, you're not gonna go to the CEO, you're gonna go to your manager first, and it's gonna get escalated from there. So I think the same kinds of courtesies should happen in correspondence between Board of Ed to Board of Finance, and back Board of Finance to Board of Ed. And you're tasked with a difficult position. You know, you're trying to clean up things, you're trying to ask questions, so nobody's faulting you for that. But I think it's the communication piece that's so critical, so people don't get their backs up, and so there isn't this penny, the sky is falling, we're losing $300,000.
Well, during that meeting with Andy, he did say, I'm going to bring this to Teresa. I said, very good, I'm going to bring it to Denise. I mean, that was the thing. I wasn't certainly trying to keep it from Teresa. We left.
Never took it like that,
Yeah.
never
No,
took it
I mean,
like
we
that.
just, I think that we try to handle things,
Mhm.
TMS to the town, wherever we can, because obviously we've got a million other things to worry about
Yeah.
besides just the financial aspect of it, Teresa. But
If it turned out,
Oh,
Patty Nelson, with an I, contrary to things you might see around town. Oh.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, I agree that, I could see how, misunderstandings came up, but it's still good that, it was in writing. If it turned out the other way, it would have been good that you had those issues in
yeah, I
writing
like
and stuff
having an
like that.
email trail. I
But
think
it's just,
good.
and it is not that we're signaling, Board of Education out, because we've had, I'm not gonna remember exactly what, it was another part of the budget. This has been happening in a couple of other places.
Right.
It's, with the road grant and other things, so it's.
You're right, it's been, the revenue budget, I've gone through it very carefully, and there were several areas where things were not budgeted, accurately, and so it wasn't just.
The apparent needs to sell.
No,
This plays a
how the transfers are made, how they are logged, all of that, so that you have an understanding of it. I'm very fortunate to work with this board. They do their due diligence, they know how the money's being spent, and they have certainly been very responsible in putting the resources where they get the most bang for them. I really encourage you to learn more about that. We'd be happy to share that with you.
I think we covered most everything on this. I don't know if anybody else has questions. Teresa, the proofs that Geraldine was asking
Yeah,
for.
we can get those over to you tomorrow.
Okay.
I just wanted, I was kind of looking through the invoices that I had compared to, and I have a Wally computer invoice dated August 11th for $114,000, and I didn't see that. And this was part of that original
Yeah, I think,
email.
yeah, we do have it.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure, because it's a pretty substantial amount.
Go to first the POs. Let's see if we can find the Wally.
Yes, I don't know about that.
Yeah, I saw some of the smaller ones that have the WCA. But once you give us the paper backup, I have posted all of those expenditures to last year's budget, and we reconciled to the 15,000. So depending on what the board of finance decides tonight, that's where we take.
Yeah, here's Wally. Ordered 629, here it is right here.
Yeah.
This was ordered
Yeah, I haven't seen
629 for an email that they
I have a
provided.
different invoice though. This invoice for 114.
Here's another one for 3036, here's Wally, 4810.
Yeah, so there are a few invoices that I have that are in here.
Yeah.
Can I,
Oh, that's the 114 right here.
Yeah.
114
Oh,
right here.
can I ask a question about with the invoices? That when we had questions, when Kim had questions on the invoices and asked about them and asked for backup, I mean, she had to get to the point where she had to go herself and do that.
We don't have the
Being-
backup.
And being in accounting and finance, I know that, it's hard to understand somebody else's thing. And if she was asking for information and got nothing, and she had to go over herself,
It wasn't that
we
she
had all this stuff.
I can show you emails if you would like, but from our perspective, what Melissa said was that it is going to take me a long time to get this information together. And then it was, I believe the comment was made that the auditor had come in and your office was able to get 50 or whatever it was immediately, and then you were coming over. We were closing out the year, starting a new one. We had a part-time person in there. We weren't able to put a full-time person in, that was part of the budget request, it got cut. So we do what we can. There wasn't a refusal to do it, it was that it's gonna take me some time to get it together.
Well, I was gonna
I
say,
don't know, just my understanding, just from the accounting point of view, you have an invoice that's paid, you have the backup for it, and if the auditor comes and asks for it, it's there.
Well, but remember, we were operating under we need a PO, not proof of order. So we had all of our POs, could have easily been produced. It was producing all this extra documentation. that
So
we
it was
had
at the
to do.
conclusion of our meeting on the 29th, where the Board of Ed and the business office embarked on a mission, if you will, to call up vendors, solicit faxes, all of that, trying to get these proofs to satisfy the Board of Finance at your request.
And I forget how many man hours.
Well, it was like 80 man hours into that,
Actually, I'm sorry, Chris, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, there was, it was an exhaustive effort. And where I was talking earlier, where I said, probably like carpet bombing versus a surgical strike, in my opinion, and again, take it for what it's worth, you audit a process. What does the financial auditor do? He audits your books. He doesn't necessarily look at every transaction. He statistically tests certain transactions, and based upon those results, he can now say with a degree of uncertainty what your process is like. We kind of work under that same approach. Now, thinking of that, we've elected going forward, we are going to have those proofs for every PO. Again, my personal opinion, that's an extra piece of paper, it's extra run through the copier, and we pay copier charges, we pay paper charges, so we're gonna have an expense. I'm not too sure how big of an expense, but there's going to be an expense in a lack of efficiency to do this. Now, in my opinion, and again, take it for what it's worth, I see that as almost like a wasted expense and a wasted efficiency.
I'll
But
take
in
it
the
for what
big
it's worth.
picture,
Just checks and balances to me
in
are
the big
important.
picture, if that's what needs to be done to make everybody happy, I get it.
All
I
that
just
needs-
think it's just,
Well, I actually know, I have a curiosity question more than it matters to us. We're talking about like how hard it was to find the invoice versus the PO versus whatever. I guess, when an invoice gets paid, does it not go with the PO and the check stub and everything stapled and filed under the vendor?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Well,
Just
we-
not the proof of the order.
Right.
That's a whole different
Well,
ballgame.
the thing was, we had agreed that this year you would give me a list of encumbrances as of the end of the year. And then I was more than happy to take that list, match it up against these late check registers in August, and be very satisfied with that process. The problem came with the encumbrance list that I was given as of June 15th, which I assumed was the list because that was what was presented to me, did not match up with these check registers at all in any way, shape, or form. So then I had to sit there and go, I had $130,000 of encumbrances presented to me, and I was fine with that. I didn't need to see anything else. Okay, this is what you're telling me. It was based on the POs that were open and outstanding. I assumed that was your year-end list because I've been told by Judy that all the POs were going to be cleared out in May this year. So I said, okay, we're left with 130,000 outstanding POs, and so when I got these check registers, I said, well, let me get out my list and check everything off, and there was nothing on these that matched up with that, and that's where a red flag came in.
well, I just looking at like the point out is on June 17th, the Board of Ed emailed you the list of over encumbrances.
Right, there's
And it says, the very
$130,000.
first line says, I can bring you what we have, but there's a lot of time left between now and 6:30.
But I
so
never
there's-
received another list. I never
Yeah.
received anything else, so I had to go and assume that was open.
There's no other
Encumbrances.
list by June 30th is what she's
I
trying to
never
Yeah.
got anything else.
Yeah, and I mean, we could have probably provided one, I think we provided one later on, but I guess,
The open PO list that went on.
I wouldn't assume from 6/17.
But if I had gotten an open PO list as of 6:30 and all of those orders were in there and I could tie it into that check register that I received at the end of August, I would have been completely satisfied with it. I wouldn't have raised any questions at all. So I think that there was a process that was supposed to be followed that wasn't, that caused some of this. And I don't think that it's necessary for you guys to all year long prove order dates and all of that. If that simple process had been followed, we wouldn't be where we are.
And I think part of the reason that things may not have tied is because we may issue a PO for a total, and then a partial order comes in, so they're not, or maybe shipping is a little bit different, or whatever, so the numbers don't,
But the
numbers
vendors are
don't tie
listed on the
exactly.
open PO.
Right,
The
you still
vendors
have
are
your open
listed,
PO.
and I could tie in the invoices, but the vendors at the very least should be matching. You shouldn't have a list of open POs and then have,
but we were still
$600,000.
creating POs
I
between
never
them.
got a list,
Right, but
I was
nothing
told that
past
was the
June
final
17th.
list. I was
Between
told
June
this is
17th
everything.
and June 30th.
So as I
You
understood
didn't have
it,
enough,
though, there
another
was later communications, I thought, between Andy and your office that said that the PO list was still in progress and could be provided. There was another date that was provided. where-
7/15 was the date I asked
Right,
to
it has-
have it, and I never heard another thing after I got that, encumbrance list, and I even remember sending them and saying, thank you, I'm so happy to have this. It's just what I
It needs going
needed
forward.
after talking with the auditor
What was
last
the
year.
August date, Kim? You had an August deadline?
The August 30th is the last time we can book anything. that would have recreated the encumbrance, and I would have said, okay, they haven't gotten invoices or anything like that, but this is what has been ordered, this is what's open. And then once those check registers came in throughout the summer, I understand there's time, I would match it up to those open POs, and we would release the encumbrance, and that was the process that I had talked about many times with Judy, and that seemed to be what was going to happen, and I would have never for a minute thought to say, well, I need to see invoices, because I would have known that they were open encumbrances as of 6:30. I trust that you guys are doing the right thing and doing what you're supposed to be doing. That's not what happened. So,
Well, and truthfully, even after our meeting that we had, we got 2 other lists of POs asked to post to the year, and we had already closed the year.
a couple of check requests.
Yeah.
Check registers.
Even
And
after we had
We had
it.
agreed that the 60 days after, the 60-day rule, we can apply that, we're gonna keep the books open, and we will take anything you give us, as long as the expenditures are encumbered, which is what we had discussed all along, we'll be happy to post those to the previous year. But I had nothing to match up to $751,000 check register on August 20th. I didn't have it. So that was my only, that was the concern.
And just, I'm again trying to get my head around it. Did you request it and then it wasn't given on 6:30? You requested it?
We had talked about it the year before,
Yeah.
and the year before that too. 2
That's
years in a
But
row.
what
one of
she's saying
the
is particular
deficiencies we
instance.
received in last year's audit was the encumbrance issue. So I have been very diligent all year communicating that. It was something that we discussed every month when we were working with Judy, and then we discussed, Chris, we discussed it at our meetings, and I talked about it with Andy. Was it you, Chris, that gave me that encumbrance listing, or was it Andy?
I think it was me, because I was the one that wrote that.
Right, and I was like, oh, this is wonderful, it's exactly what I need. And if we had gotten a check register on August 29th for $130,000 that matched up with the encumbrances, everything would have been fine. I would have never ever thought for a second to ask to see an invoice of yours. I don't want to, I have my own invoices to deal with.
So, 18, there's the field report.
So, I think we all are hopefully on the same page moving forward. And
So, you would like that list of encumbrances, is it July 15th, you said?
it should be as of June
As of
30th
June 30th.
by July 15th. So I can,
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
summer is
So
when
it
I
is,
start reconciling
you'll
all
see
of
that
the.
list on July 15th of
Yeah.
what was purchased up till.
And in one of the TMS memos, it's mentioned in there that that's what we
That's
had agreed
perfect,
to.
sounds good to me.
I don't know, I just remember.
I'd like to do some more
Yeah.
digging on that, and then I certainly can respond to you on it. 'Cause it's just making some more questions for me, so I want to get my head around it, so.
Any other questions? See you next, it's the hill in 5 minutes.
Oh, well.
Bummer for you.
Hey, it's been 15 years, come on.
Cubs are gonna win.
That's the end of the books.
Cubs are gonna win. Back to the future predicted.
I keep looking at that clock.
That's dangerous.
The auditor's coming this week.
That's dangerous on more than one token,
Yeah, we need
because
to have this
you
resolved.
could be looking at a completely different playing field at this table that has no idea next month what's transpired overall.
But if we don't have the hard copies with the dates on them, is that not what our duty was this evening?
Well, I think you can make your motion as, I don't think that you can push this off till next month, because the auditor comes next week, and many people could be missing from this table next month.
I need
have a
to
whole
submit the
different
GL to
balance.
the auditor within
You
the
need to
next
be
month.
more optimistic.
Oh, I'm just saying, it's true. I mean, any of us, whoever's ever, I mean, the playing field's gonna change. And so, I mean,
If you guys are comfortable that
I
they've
think-
done their due diligence and they have,
yeah, you guys can discuss it, you can see what you think. I think you have, if you wanna make your motion to have Kim keep it in 2015, 14, whatever, you can amend it if she receives the
We'll have the
hard
paperwork
copy
tomorrow.
backup or whatever, it is, this motion will stand, or whatever, however you'd like to word it. I know that you guys wanted to see it, I know that.
Yeah, that was my understanding, that we were going to look that over tonight and make that decision tonight and vote on that. But that,
You don't have the
that
hard
is not,
copy
that's not
backup
gonna
with
be
you
the
right
case.
now?
I do.
You
Well,
do?
We
knows
do
that?
have to,
Can
maybe
maybe have
if you'd like.
everybody take a look at it, or pass it around?
It's up to you guys, I mean, it's up to you guys how you, because you cannot let it go past
It
tonight,
needs to
it
be
has to be
decided.
resolved tonight, for more than one reason.
So what we need to do tonight, if I understand this correctly, Kim, is to look at the invoices and see which invoices need to be charged to 15 and which need to be charged to 14. Correct? So that's gonna be a sit down and look at each
15,
individual.
16, 14.
Well, have you done
No,
that already?
2014,
I
fiscal
just
year
think that-
2014.
Okay, so you have it, because I would have been more comfortable if you looked at it and you said, okay, this goes here, this goes here. I mean, it's not our job to do, but I would have been comfortable with that, that you don't have the backup.
No, this meeting, I actually canceled the meeting with DMS this afternoon, because we're redoing the entire tax office scale, and then we're working home from home. and just couldn't meet with them, but, I mean, I think that there's, the overriding thought is that we need to be on the same page, and we need to have better communication, and if
And without
What
slamming
purpose
each
would it
other, let's
serve?
start giving each other the benefit of the doubt.
Right,
Because that's the way it
That's the
feels.
last thing I guess I wanted to say,
Yep.
is, as an officer of the Board of Ed, I was really uncomfortable at the last meeting with the way the Board of Finance and the treasurer spoke to our staff. I was very uncomfortable with it, and
Well, I'm gonna be honest, Kathy, I
And so
don't
did
like the
Ray.
way he speaks to me, and I'm very sorry to say
Yes,
that,
that
but if
goes
you wanna
both
go
ways.
down that road, I really have a problem with the way he addresses me, and I was gonna let that go because it is what it is, but if you wanna go down that road,
I think
And
it is
I-
a road we should go down, and it's part of the reason why I keep asking
well, I didn't really wanna do it like
boards
in
to
minutes,
have
I'd rather
a
not be
meeting
in minutes.
to
and-
talk
but-
about what communication, good communication looks like. Because when we aren't communicating well with each other, it quickly deteriorates into just not a comfortable feeling, and I don't think either board wants that. So, what does it look like to have good communication with each other? And how do we signal to each other when, you know what, I don't like your tone? Maybe that isn't what you're trying to do, but you're making me feel like I don't like your tone. So how do we give each other warnings? But, everybody is on the same side, and it just, we've got to learn a better way to voice our disagreements with each other and come to some kind of conclusion with each other, But I have all of this, if you want it, it's the only copy, so.
So
Well,
Kim,
I would
what
say,
are
why don't you
suggesting?
guys, if,
Can I
sorry,
start with the
I would
copier
say
for you?
if,
Oh, it's multiple.
oh, it's multiple, it would be crazy,
Yeah, I
that
just
would be a
didn't know.
waste of crazy.
Thank
Um,
you.
I would say if we want to, maybe, how about you guys do this, if you wanna take like a 5-minute recess and you guys can kind of take a really quick look at it, know that they have the feel good about it, whatever, and then we can come back. 'Cause,
But if we're just
I'm
gonna
freezing, I wanna use the
overlook it,
restroom.
look it over rather than take it, what I understood that tonight we were being charged with the job to look at each individual invoice. If that's not necessary, then is it necessary to actually just look at it as an overview? I'm not sure that that's necessary if Kim already knows what's in there.
She does, doesn't she?
She
I
does
haven't seen
know
it.
what's in there.
Okay.
I think it's a
So
good
that you
idea
need to
for
see it.
you, I think Carolyn's idea of you, the board, looking over what they have for backup
Yeah,
and kind of
you
reaching
feel
a
good about it,
consensus
whatever,
that,
and-
they really were ordered prior and and we can say those were prior year expenditures and just move forward, having all learned from this experience and putting new processes in place. But I think you should actually look at what they worked so hard to prepare. I think it's a good idea. For you to be comfortable. Because have the encumbrance listing, it matches up with the check registers, and it would never get to this point where we would be looking at this kind of stuff again. So hopefully that's where we're gonna end up.
So why don't we do a 5-minute recess
You
and
guys can take a look at.
take a look at it? Alright, motion.
Motion to take a 5-minute break.
Second. Somebody second. All those in favor?
Aye.
There you go.
Okay.
Alright, we're gonna do that. Tell me, who lost everything? I'm good. This is the old stuff. Alright, so you guys went over everything, and you're seeing the substantiated, and as Chris talked to us about, there is about 36,954, that there is no substantiation for prior to June 30th. But for most of it, or almost about 237, there is backup to it in some shape or form. So are there any other questions? Are there any, do you want to put a motion out there for discussion? And that would be a motion to put these forth, not on this year's, on the prior years, as Kim has already posted them too. And then we can discuss it further.
You want to give it a try?
Gonna have to get used to it.
Don't say that.
Go ahead.
I make a motion to approve
That's your
the check registers in
posted to
questions
fiscal
all
year
be
15.
posted to fiscal year 2015.
Is there a second for discussion?
Second.
All right. Any discussion? Any questions?
I think,
Any comments, concerns?
Yes. So are we approving those 27 invoices for approximately $272,000? Is that what we're doing? From approving it for fiscal year 15?
I would say that I would approve the check registers of 139, 140. There are 36,000 in invoices that they couldn't substantiate, but that's really immaterial in a $22 million budget. I would not even consider saying let's pull that out and post. I mean, that would serve nobody's purpose to do that. So I would just say that you are approving that those check registers be paid.
Yeah, and that's about $279,000, that's what you said.
The two check registers add up almost over $800,000.
Oh,
A lot of them had invoices with proper dates. Then we had the Dell, which was almost $300,000 that they submitted new invoices with dates before June 30th. So
okay.
there was a whole bunch of different
So
stuff
some-
going
It
on.
would be just better to do the check registers.
Yeah, but I'm confused now because I thought Chris showed us 21 purchase orders, and then there were 6 more. I thought there was, the 21 was for $236,000, and the 6 were for $36,000. And as I was saying, that's about $272,000. What about the rest of this money? Because the 2 check registers together is about $800,000.
Right.
So is the difference, that about $500,000 difference, those were invoices that were valid and you?
Right.
Okay.
About $300,000 were the Dell invoices that were resubmitted by Dell with the correct date on them. And then the rest were, I went through each check register and any invoice I found, or
Okay.
anything I could say safely could be posted to last year, I just didn't make a copy of or do anything with.
Okay.
So, you know,
And in our last meeting, they have brought the changed invoices and the documentations for the Dell. Yes.
I just, the 36,000, I mean, kind of what Chris was saying, and looking at an auditor's standpoint, if the bulk of them were done, shown to be done okay, just because we don't have the backup, we shouldn't assume it wasn't done correctly also, so I would be in favor of just like moving everything, not pulling those out just because they don't happen to have it.
Anybody else?
I agree with Cindy.
reconciliation, all these things, and I have to have my books up to date, or, man, I get crucified in there. I think this is being very handy. Thank you.
Anybody else? Right, and I agree wholeheartedly with you guys, I think we go forward from here. It's done, we put it forward, we go forward from here. We agree to stick to what we discussed tonight and got straightened out again and have the encumbrance as of June 30th match when the invoices come in.
Can I just ask a question? I heard during recess, I just heard Kim say that she wanted the list of encumbrances by 6:30, where I thought earlier we said the list of encumbrance for 6:30.
As of 6:30 by
By
15.
Right, by July 15th.
Okay, that, you just said it a little bit differently,
Oh,
so I wanted to be clear that that's what it was,
The
okay?
encumbrances should be everything up through.
Up to, right, the 6:30 date is,
By,
everything
yes.
has to be done by then, but the paperwork follows afterwards. Is that
Absolutely.
clearly, if we're, all right,
We have,
That's
until-
not-
we have agreed that until August 30th, we will post to the prior fiscal year. It's 60 days. It
As long as
should
it
be
matches the,
plenty of time to get everything, we didn't have any school revenue coming in past probably the first week of August. So it seems like a reasonable process to have.
okay. I just heard it a little bit differently when you guys were chatting, and I just wanted to make sure that something hadn't changed.
Could we maybe make sure that that's clear in the minutes, right?
So say it again. You've said it three
A
or four
list
different ways.
of open encumbrances will be, as of 6:30 of every year, will be given to the treasurer's office by July 15th, so that I can match up against the expenditures that come in through the summer.
and they have to match. All right, any other questions, any other discussions?
And then this whole issue of having all this backup and us looking at it, and her looking at it, will be a moot point, because if the encumbrances make sense with what she's getting.
Right.
Follow up. Anything else?
Don't resign,
All right.
please.
Okay, so, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion clearly passes. All right,
So now we have to put the,
you gotta go back to order. It should be monthly reports 7A.
Excuse me, before you leave,
Oh.
I want to say that I appreciate your patience. I think we've improved communication, and I'm glad to see you. Thank you.
good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you.
All right.
I don't know where it came from, I made it up.
I just talked to like, at 4 o'clock this afternoon, I was gonna be here. I would have given you guys more notice, but I just got it, so.
Yep.
Just let you know.
Okay. Just another day.
Yeah.
Thank you. Good night.
Be in the building.
I might be back. We'll go there. honest, I believe in everything that we do here, and I believe that it's important to get the revenues that are due the town. I also believe in being somewhat business friendly, and if you're a business that is above board, and she all of a sudden comes, and I don't mean this anything against Carol or whatever, but you know, you're gonna feel like you're being attacked, and you're gonna feel like you're being singled out, and I don't know if it's gonna be worth the revenue that we are gonna, with the feeling we're going to create with attacking these businesses. So I think it's a real fine, I don't know, I don't know that it's, I mean, I think everybody should be truthful, above board. Is everybody? No, we get that. But at the same time, should we be looking to, you know, alienate people? I'm thinking not, so I don't know.
Well, I was
Jury's out.
in Cromwell when we got a new assessor and she began the process of personal property audits. And first year was very rough. I mean, we had business owners coming in and screaming and swearing, and it was taken very personally. Cromwell's kind of a small town like East Windsor. Within 3 or 4 years, it just was, okay, it's another thing that happens, it's, you know, it's accepted, and the personal property declarations did become more accurate when people knew there was some accountability to them, so it was.
I know, but if you're those first that she's choosing to single out,
So is this,
One went
I
to
get you.
court, it was awful.
was this,
yeah, I think
so
it
is
creates
this,
bad blood.
I have to say, the very beginning of this discussion, or my brain was still on the other discussion. So is this something that she's going to do, thinking about doing?
So
She
she's
started,
doing it.
she did, she was,
Okay.
she began doing it for last year, last grand list, and it's a long process because you have to work.
I think we talked about it a couple meetings ago.
Yeah. So anyway, that's why she doesn't have a written report, because she's very busy, and that's basically what's going on.
I guess we'll see what the revenues are, but I just, the bad blood,
And she's also working on putting together a tax abatement ordinance to, you know, encourage new businesses, you know, it's just one of the things that assessors have the right to do, and many assessors do it. It happens all over the state. So, but I hear what you're saying.
we need all the help we can get. We don't need to be.
I agree. I am so pro-business, it makes a big difference.
Yep, I mean, we have a state that's so unpro, at least we can try to be a little pro.
And we have so much potential in this town.
Yeah.
With,
And starting that, we're just, you know, adding another piece to the pie of not being business friendly, so I don't see it as the wisest thing, but whatever. I can't change that one. So, all right.
So the other two reports are there, if anyone has any questions. Everything, this time of year, the budgets are, you know, in line on the.
Where are we sitting, you know, I mean, I think, you know, everybody's gone, and I know I was joking, but I think one of the biggest things we are gonna have to talk about, and I guess in this section is a good time to talk about it, is that the elections are in November, and this table could look a lot different at next month's meeting. I think it's critical that we do a couple things, that we make sure that any open-ended things that we can try to resolve tonight, or like we did the Board of Ed, or do real, you know, let Peg know that, you know, we think at the end this is real critical, add this to our board member comments, so that it transpires to who could be sitting at this table next month. Because it's a hard transition, and it will leave a lot of, thank goodness for Kim, and Cindy will still be here, and Paulette and Bob, who knows, but, I mean, you know, so you'll have some of that, but I think it will take some, you know, of us looking and saying, okay, like, one of my concerns is, where is the general fund right now? Where are we looking, what percentage are we at? Because we are just a little too high. And what that hurts, we've heard the Board of Ed tell us.
Oh, the fund balance, you mean?
Yeah, sorry, fund balance. But we've heard the Board of Ed tell us that hurts them getting grants because we're considered a rich town. We're not a rich town. So we need to, you know, look at that. And I think probably in board member comments, we kind of you need to look at this to make sure you are working with this and finding people to put projects together so that we can figure out so you guys can not have such a high fund balance. And so where are we right now, I guess
Well,
would be
my
my
initial
question.
projections that we're gonna end fiscal year 15 with, an increase to our fund balance of about $516,000.
I'm not complaining, but you know that, what percentage is that gonna put us at
Yeah, I
now?
know, but the auditors are coming next week, we'll have
Yep.
ironed out everything. This was a tough year because of the financial
Right.
conversion, but, we're definitely going to be in the black. Our revenues were very tight. Right now, the revenue report's only showing a $10,000, surplus. We are getting, I just got the letter, we're getting the LoSiP money. The LoSiP money is only gonna be 78,000. It was budgeted for 130. So we'll have about an 88,000 surplus in the revenue, which is good, considering the ECS problem and all that. And the amount of money unspent from the expenditure budget is about 600,000. Some of that is savings in insurance and healthcare that we continue to see. You're always, obviously, you want to have a surplus.
Yeah.
You don't want to spend more than you're supposed to, but we're tightening it as
Yep.
we get better control of the budget. I'm not, last year we had a lot of discussion about turning back $800,000. I think turning back $500,000 is probably not a bad thing. It's not huge.
When you say turning back.
It's
Putting it back
unspent
into
money, budgeted money that was unspent. Because you're always going to have, salaries, people leaving, and positions unfilled, and, you're going to create.
Well, some positions have been put together as one position and a lot of
And,
those changes.
as we get through negotiations, and if we can get other units to switch to the high deductible HSA, you're going to see huge savings. That's going to, so.
We also, can I add one other reason that we budget some extra money, and we put a cushion in the budget, because we usually have some either kind of workers' comp or heart and hypertension settlement almost every
Every year.
And we have to set that money aside, but we never know if it's gonna be 100,000 or 150,000 or 70,000. That all comes from negotiating, from when it happens, who pulls the plug on making the deal happen. So we always have to have a cushion. So I agree with
Absolutely, yeah.
Kim that there are some things, certainly, it's great if it can be from health insurance savings and those.
Well, I remember that heart and hypertension, I don't forget how many years in the number, and it got used, it was gone, and we didn't
Yeah.
send it back. It was
We
so-
had a good settlement this year.
Yeah.
We had a settlement for
That was-
$100,000 that came in June, and we're down to
Three, I think.
three. And one, we're actively engaging in settlement with them too, so the more that we can
Set
settle.
off the books, then
get
they're
off
done.
books, it's
Yeah.
Right.
Kerma is outstanding, helping us deal with that.
So, only because I go with that whole percentage, so do we have like a guesstimate of where that fund balance is? Is it 20%?
It's gonna be around 21%.
And what's our policy? 17?
17.
But we have some ideas for that.
No, and I think that that's what I'm saying. That's what we were discussing, is that I really feel it's critical that we put in our board member comments at the end, because this, as we said, this table could change in November, very much so. So with that 4% of fund balance, I think it's important that we put in our board member comments the stuff that we are gonna be open-ended and that really need to be looked at next year, not the year after, not whatever, to say, people need to put their, Kathy's here, Board of Ed needs to put projects together and come forth to you guys, and everybody gets on the bandwagon and says, yeah, that's a great project.
Capital
Let's
project.
go to a capital
Right.
project, exactly, capital projects, and let's get it done, like the middle school roof, when, you had talked about some things too. So next year, that has to happen.
Can I ask a question? Or you guys are still
No,
on
no,
motion,
that's
right?
No, you're fine, you're still Board of Ed, you're on the
Okay.
agenda.
But my understanding was like projects that got put on the capital improvement list couldn't come off of that list to be done separately. That's kind of what I got out of the capital improvement group, which I know I'm really new to, but, so how do you take a project off of the capital improvement budget and move it into,
You go to the.
and added appropriation, is that what you're talking about, like making it an added appropriation type?
Well, there would be enough capital projects that are gonna fall off the list because they won't all get approved, that we might be able to use those, use the excess in our general fund to pay for some of those that fall off. Or the capital planning committee can say, let's instead, last year was the first time I've ever seen it done, and before this, I was on Board of Finance, and I'd never seen it done there either. So, what they did last year is they said, instead of having this be a part of the capital projects, let's plan on doing it outside of the capital projects and pay for it directly.
So, but you can do that without it being part of the approved budget too?
Well,
You have to
it has to
go
go through
to-
a
It has to go through
appropriation
the added
process.
appropriation
Which
process.
gets, so it has to be
Okay.
checks and balances,
Okay.
because you want the checks and balances. You
Yes,
don't want
you
to say,
do.
let's
No,
slide
yeah,
this
let's just,
out.
right,
No,
and I'm
you
just trying to
can-
understand how,
I know.
which track it takes, how does that,
But
is
really,
that,
the
what is the
CIP committee
logistics?
should be the ones that are saying, we vetted these projects, we vetted these requests, and these are good requests. It should generate from them
Right.
first. And they should be looking at larger bonding issues, everything should start at the CIP level.
Right.
And this-
And I think that's what, you know,
Yeah, middle school really
I think
has
this
gotta be a
money that
model
we're
project.
talking about, I think, is there a way we could make it more concrete that this is our intent?
no.
No?
You have to have it approved by them first,
By the capital main.
to capital improvement, go to
Well,
the
no,
board
I
of
know,
selectmen.
I'm not saying specifically, I'm just saying generally that we are gonna take, we're gonna use the general fund money
No,
for
because
well,
it would, you know what, you're gonna still be here in November, so it would take you staying to your guns and making sure that you guys play through the thing.
I mean, I would never, as the treasurer, recommend using it to offset mill rate increases, you know, other than the small level that we do now.
That's
but
Bad
Yeah,
Hey,
financial.
hey, all through the paper last year, towns were using 500,000, 800,000, 700,000.
I think when's the last time we used over $1 million?
Well, we played
Somebody
that
used
game
over a
sometimes
million
before, and we
dollars.
paid the price for it one year, and our
No,
tax
we-
increase.
We've done it, but we've done it mildly. We
No,
haven't
but I
done
mean,
it the size
not
of
recently,
towns.
I'm talking previously, where we let it drop.
8 or 9
fairly
years
low.
ago, millions of dollars.
But there, but this is something we could set in place to do next, as it goes through the board of selectmen and the capital improvements. It could possibly be set in place before the budget for next year, like,
It's all part
we
of
could
the
already
process.
say.
Well, it's,
Part of
yeah.
the budget
It
process.
can
It'll
come
be
at
part of the
times.
process. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying, that it could come up, so we
Right.
could say, we're gonna do this
Denise
much
could
aside for
say, come to you and
the
say
roof.
the board of selectmen has approved that we use $500,000 to buy the streetlights.
Yep.
And it comes to,
And
it
that's
doesn't have to
something
be
that
part of
needs
the
to
budget
be pushed
process.
to the board of selectmen.
It doesn't have to go through the budget process because it's a supplemental
Right,
appropriation.
Yep.
So there
So
are
I think
lots of
that's what
ways,
has to-
but I agree with you, it needs to, it's a good thought, and it's, I just talked with the financial advisor, because we were talking about, borrowing some money for larger projects in the spring, and I said, we talked about fund balance, and he goes, the best possible use is one-time capital projects.
Yep.
It's the best use of that money.
Kim, can we use a combination of bonding and we can infuse our own general fund money?
Absolutely.
So if, for instance, the South Water Street project is 3 million, we bond 2 and we can put in 1 million of our own.
Yep, or you can phase it out and do a 1.5 million this year,
Well,
1.5
that's my,
million
that's
next
my
year.
thought, but I think I told you.
Yeah, but yeah,
I
the
didn't tell
funding
Becky that
is
yet.
all, between the board of selectmen and board of finance, how you're going to fund any project. Doesn't have to be done just through CIP and an operating budget.
Right.
There's a lot to do.
And do we know the availability in the, to bond, that money, the availability that we have coming up? Are we sure that we're going to have projects
we talked about, Joe did the road thing and we said, Joe, take this and make sure you're ready, that next year, your road thing is ready. We said about the roof, make sure it's ready, and
They've listened, because like Kim said, she's the nag to some, I'm the nag to the others, and we now have plans on the shelf for South Water Street, which is a complete rebuild, all the drainage and everything. So,
now it's gonna fall back into the earth.
yeah. Excuse me. So we're trying to stay ahead of those. We were for a bit, that's how we got the, sewer, project done. We had the plans on the shelf.
Yep.
So we try to stay one ahead. To have the problem that we have the ability to spend money and not need to look for projects that are ready is a good problem to have. And
Exactly.
we will, we're aggressively, both Kim and I are aggressively going after, do you need trucks, do you need, police cars, do you need, what is it that we need to do?
And the roof on the middle school is part of that too.
Yes,
It's been presented.
yes, it is, but those
Time for some-
projects come from.
That was presented to CIP. The
Yeah,
windows as well is a very big project.
All right.
Is that
So
project
any
coming
other-
through, is the middle school roof, is that coming through as a solar project?
It was presented to CIP with that option on there, so that they could put solar up there to lessen the operating costs.
Now, all the things I see on the internet and all about solar panels in Connecticut, how they're being installed free, would that go through to municipalities, or is it only single or family homeowners?
I'm not sure.
I think that, I don't know about for government, I know for businesses, there are plans where they can get them for pretty inexpensive, but I don't know for government, I would
I
think.
haven't really seen that. We might get a higher reimbursement rate from the state.
Yeah.
If
We
we
certainly get
have-
I
credits.
get about 3 or 4 calls a week
Really?
for battles.
But
Yeah.
really, if you look
It's
at
all
the
free.
financial impact, going to like a solar hot water system is where you find a lot more savings than solar panels. I was on a school building committee when we did solar panels on the roof, and we were told that it's kind of a sexy project that people like to see, but they don't pay for themselves. The expense is so high. But if you can get grants or extra
Right,
money
then
from the
it
state, it
Go for
could.
it.
But there are other energy efficiencies that really get you more bang for the buck, so that's something to discuss.
Even on homes, they said it's hard, it takes a while.
A long time to recoup.
Oh, yeah, the payback
costs.
on those is not short,
No,
no.
so it's just something for the
I would be up for that.
CIP committee to discuss and, come to a plan and have something that we can, get ready to
Yep.
move forward.
Absolutely. All right, so, any other questions in the financial realm of the world? No? All right, so the number 8B, since we are back in order, annual report update.
Okay, I've got
Do
the draft, we've heard back from most of the departments. I don't know if you guys want to divvy up the sheets and do some proofreading like you guys did last year. So if you want to,
When did that go out last year?
at the end of the year, it's presented at the annual meeting in December with the, usually with the audit.
Seemed like we had just finished it in June, but.
No,
End
it
of
was
the
out
calendar
in
year.
December, at the end of the calendar year, because this annual report is for fiscal year for last 15, so it really kind of ends in June. So, it's moving along,
You will see mine is not in there.
This is always like,
I don't understand that, I really don't understand.
I hate to say it, you're the only one.
I am the only one? Oh,
Everybody else is there.
clacking.
This
On
year
tape.
I'm going around and taking pictures of staff, I'm trying to get a lot more,
This is
up-to-date,
beautiful.
photos.
That's Kim, but Kim has
That's
done a great
Can that be
job.
emailed to us so that we
It's,
can
the
look
file
over
is
it?
too large.
Okay.
So, I don't know, I have like a Dropbox that I send it to Staples for them to print, but if you guys wanna take a quick look
question that's always asked, and I always forget why we didn't do it, other than expense, I knew was one reason too. I'll take whatever you guys like. Was why don't we put our budget in?
Because it's printed up in the annual financial report is all the detail.
Okay.
That's available online, it's available in the town clerk's office. That is the annual financial report.
Okay.
We stopped making it part of the annual, it used to be part of the annual report.
Right.
So we stopped because of the expense,
That's what I thought
but
it was.
also because we were making it electronically available. And anybody that wants a copy, we can print it out for them. We used to have, we had, when we split it, we had copies of it with the annual report. People would take the annual report and leave the financial. So we stopped printing it.
But you're gonna have the assets and liabilities, like we did before, 2 pages at the end.
Well, I changed it this year to a one-page financial kind of breakdown of how the budget operated. If you want me to add in those 2 pages, it's up to the board if you want that included. That means that I would have to wait until the audit is complete and the pages are back, which
Which is the end of the
at
year.
the end of the fiscal year, and
That
those
is the fire.
actual pages are in the annual financial report available.
But they're not available yet.
So it depends on what you guys
Well,
want
I
to do.
personally always feel that the corporations, they put out their annual reports, and what you look at in those annual reports is a lot of fluff, but you look at the financial reports, that's why they put out their annual reports, but the financial report, not to show the pretty pictures. And I've always, if I've opened a report, an annual report from a town, and there's no financial information, I'll ask liabilities, and I don't feel comfortable.
I can add those pages in, it's no big deal. I don't know who has the one financial report page that I put together already. It's got a couple of graphs on it.
Was it in the beginning or towards
It
the
was
end?
at the end.
Yeah.
But that means that that piece would not be done until December.
Right, if you want the actual audited,
Financials.
statement of position and the audited, I can do the budget versus actual right now, because I have that, but the statement of net position with all of the fixed assets and everything else included, that would have to wait until the auditor finishes.
Then you have to do with what you're gonna have.
They usually come in on 2 wheels the day that we have the annual meeting. That was my experience last year.
Yeah.
I mean, it's up to you.
Go with what you have, I think. Like you said, budget versus actual.
You can revisit it.
Yeah.
Revisit it.
Yeah, we
Next Board
can,
of Finance meeting.
whoever has that page can find it and take a look at
You
it.
could put it in an addendum, you could put it in there.
The treasurer.
The 2 pages that,
I mean, I had it in there last year, but I just don't know, the information is available in complete form in the financial audited financial reports.
Did you receive any feedback about that?
You have?
I didn't.
No,
I
I
have the
haven't.
beginning. We have the first half. Those guys have.
And usually they're printed and everything and given out at the same time, the audited financial report and the annual report.
Nobody
just
can
not
find
getting
it.
to the printer. It's,
I have the treasurer, but
It
not
says town
anything else.
finances.
That's the beginning.
You have it.
right there, that's it.
This is what you're looking for?
Yeah.
You know what? It's 9 o'clock.
It's bad. How old are you?
I mean,
Do you
you
know
guys
where your
will
children
discuss it, it's not gonna be going to the printer until probably end of next month, middle of next month.
Ew, I have a lot.
No.
I'm kidding, I'm kidding.
Okay.
I looked
Alright.
at other towns' annual reports, and most of them are in reader-friendly formats like that, rather than
She
pages
wants that
and pages and numbers.
No, she just wanted to. All right, okay, on to number 9, new business, anything? We shouldn't really, yeah, okay. Right now, we are on to board member comments. Want me to make mine? I'll make mine. There we go. All right, so, as I said, playing field can definitely change in November. tremendously. So if it does, I want to leave you with this, is that I have really enjoyed my time serving as chairman. I think you guys are a great board who works really well together. You support Kim with the best of your ability. I hope that it doesn't change that much, but such is the tide and things may. So I think it's important for you guys in the board member comments to make sure you put the items in that you don't want to get forgotten. But thank you for all of your efforts. And great job. That's my board member comment today. Anybody else?
I like working with everybody. I hope to get back on the board. I try to make effort. I do feel a little bit worried, I have to say, because if it's a big change in town, we're gonna lose an awful lot of experience, knowledge, and dedication, and that's scary. Because some of the things, even last night, the board of selectmen, they're gonna go flat. And, we're not gonna have the experience there to, take on stuff and carry forward. You're gonna have to go way back to kindergarten, way forward again. And that is terrifying. And if we lose a lot of experience on board of finance, we're not gonna be able to cope with situations that some of us already have been 8 to 10 years here now. And you're just gonna have just slip-ups, a lot of stuff like tonight, Kim, you did a fabulous job, very proud of you. But I don't know if there's gonna be people on board to realize what you tried to produce for the next year. That's terrifying. I'll be there. So.
What's the song?
But it's been pleasant, I hope I get back on, I'm anticipating getting back on, because, I'm worried. I can't help but say that, I'm really worried. Julie, you gotta get back on, sorry about that. You're stuck.
Paula? Oh, sorry.
This is, I have mixed emotions, it's really gonna be very hard to start all over with. And I hope we're not. I'm gonna keep it the way it is.
Is there anything, well, you'll be here, so really your board, I mean, you can know the things that you know are important that you feel that need to go forward.
I think we started with the Board of Ed, I think that's come a long way, and I think we're gonna do great. We do a fabulous job.
So,
Kind of off, since I had just other board member comments, I'm a liaison to CIP, and that they're in the process of putting together a CIP budget. They're at the point of, they're gonna be ranking the projects. One thing that was brought up that I thought I'd bring up here, just so, you know, communications, that the Board of Education has available to them a grant of $1.2 million that they're gonna be applying for. If I say something wrong, let me know. That has to be used on things that are outside the budget, outside of CIP, that you can't take anything away from them so that they can use it. And they're just telling us this so that we know ahead of time that they have that money, that they're gonna be, you know,
so
it's
they're
not a
applying for
surprise
it.
that they're
Yes,
gonna apply.
it's not here yet.
Right, it's not here.
It's a long way from here yet.
And it's very clear in the thing that you can't say, all right, let's not give her that, let's
Yeah.
not do that CIP project, because we're gonna use this for that, it's for
Things that are outside that,
outside.
right?
And that the board member comment, the other things about with the Board of Education, I think that is important that we kind of finalize and not just give lip service to, is how we're gonna concretely improve communications. That we need to do that.
Well, I think moving
Maybe next
forward,
time. Yeah.
that in the November meeting, the first thing that should be accomplished is how often that you want to have communications together as boards, and really communicate with Kim. Obviously, everyone communicate with Kim. I think Kim, as much as, you know, you asked who to CC, if I were you, I'm gonna be honest with you, the whole world would get CC'd. Because I would, if Dr. Kane doesn't want to read it, shouldn't have to read it, but she got it. So I would CC Dr. Kane, I would CC your boss and their boss, and that boss. Because then everybody has got a copy of it, and there's no question, is there a missing email? No, everybody's on that email trail. Plus, the worst thing ever invented is BCC, because you know what, you just never know where it went anyways. So I would just, that's my opinion. And I think think that you guys have to communicate monthly on an update. Are we where we need to be? With any of the outside entities, Board of Ed, WPCA, whatever, on a monthly thing, when you do your meetings, I think there has to be an agenda item for the people who you have to reconcile to. Are we where we need to be, or do we need to send out an email? It needs to be done monthly, I think. I think there has to be, and I think you guys, I think November, that should be set as a parameter, as an agenda item to define communication with different boards. No, not just Board of Ed, WPC, anybody who Kim has to reconcile finances, because Board of Ed is kind of general, because
should be
FRC,
for
who's
everyone.
part of Board of Ed, was a large chunk of money not coming in. Cafeteria, who's, but it's all under the Board of Ed umbrella, so it just gets pushed as that Board of Ed thing.
And just as another item, just to note, is that it doesn't seem like we are in agreement as to, who, between the budgeting and the Board of Ed, and who says, who, I don't know how to say
Well,
that.
I think you're-
At that
Where
point.
the control is.
That it's not yet, that it still doesn't seem to me clear enough.
They
Right,
get their
right.
appropriation, they can spend it
Right, I
any
totally
way they want
get that.
without any.
But it seemed when it came down to it, as being included in the budget, what I heard was them saying it's not, you can't tell us what goes into year end.
Yeah, and that's why I think we have a difference of opinion, because they are a town department, and they are audited
Well,
as a
that's what
part
I
of the
mean,
town.
we
And
need to
the financial
clarify.
processes really should be followed.
So that just, I think we need to clarify.
Okay, and you probably should, that should probably be addressed November too, as a finalization to the meeting or whatever, a clear statement. But I will say what I kind of heard was, in Chris's statement was, I don't think the charter agrees with the encumbrance, but even though I don't think it agrees with the encumbrance, I'm gonna tell you that I'm going to follow it from now on. That's what I heard. But you can get it solidified. And yes, that should be on your list of things in your Sure. Nothing, you have nothing to make sure it gets done in November or further on in the year?
My only concern was Board of Ed, and I think we've hashed that out. And we've talked about having quarterly meetings, and I hope that they get started soon. And I think that the quarterly meetings can happen at the same time as these meetings. I don't think we need to add more meetings to our lives. So hopefully it can be, at the same time as this, even if it means we have to change the night of these, I don't know. But I think that they're important, and hopefully, it'll keep us from having these long meetings when something goes wrong.
Sounds good. Bob?
Well, I think we all worked very hard on the budget process, and I think, too, I have to agree that communication needs to be improved. And also I have to compliment Kim. She has done a great job, and I'm not really worried about if there are changes to the Board of Finance, because Kim's there, and she'll teach them what they don't know and bring them up to speed quickly. I think over the year, I think we've all learned more about supplemental appropriations and how to use those, and how, and during the budget process, we were saying, well, we can reduce the budget, but because we can pay for this via the supplemental appropriation. We haven't done it, but we cut some of the budgets with the intention of doing that. There's bonding that we can do, and by considering, funding, different ways of funding, we can keep the taxes down and still do the capital improvements we want to do. So I think we've learned a lot this year, and hopefully that, and Kim knows it, so I'm sure it'll work itself out next